mute myself and say hello, everyone and no one, and welcome to another Talking Into the Void. Merry Christmas Eve, Merry Christmas, since we're just about there anyways. And with me today, as always, is Tyr Alexander. Tyr, how you doing?
I'm doing great, my friend. How are you?
Oh, not so bad. With us as well, we got Angela. Angela, how you doing today?
Still alive.
You sound better.
Are we sure about that?
At least you currently do. And joining us, because I don't know if James is going to be here, we have Mitch the Ripper again. Mitch, how you doing?
I don't know if I'm feeling well or not, or if I'm stuck in this Peter Griffin voice.
Oh no.
Since
I'm sorry.
we're going into Christmas and that whole thing, and I personally think it's a Christmas gift. Have any of you, I'm guessing Tyr probably has, seen the shit online of the L localizers been taking because anime studios and whatnot for translating have been going towards AI for some of it now, to where it's not full AI. The AI translates it and then it gets a human review.
Yeah, it's fun.
I hope it comes out like a Chinese knockoff.
For some of it they do, but I mean, in all reality, it's not much worse or better than what we've been getting from localizers who want to throw in their own politics into it, dumbass memes that aren't in there. Like, since I got into anime as a kid and started understanding more of it as I got older, one of the biggest things I've seen from basically everyone is the same thing. Stop trying to localize it for the US. Just just translate it directly and then make a coherent sentence.
Yeah, honestly, that's all they have to do.
It's like that is all you have literally had to do.
See, the problem is everybody wants to spread their message.
Well, when you say localize it, I can understand some of that because, for example, in Japan, there is going to be a common expression that will not exist in America. And that's a cultural thing, and I get that. But, if they want to change it from, raking the baby, whatever the fuck that means, I just made that up. But if they want to change it from raking the baby because that's normal in the native culture as an expression to, dealing from the underside of the deck would be the equivalent or something similar in America. That would make sense.
Yeah. Well, there's some parts of it, but for the longest time, localizing, what it meant was instead of using predominant, of that country specifically's companies, so whatever their actual companies are, changing that to major companies that would be in the States. So there'd be some regular weird restaurant and they call it McDonald's. It's the whole thing of going back to an old one is the original Pokemon anime that got translated, and the dude's got a freaking onigiri in his hand, and he's like, boy, I sure do love jelly donuts. And for the longest time, it didn't make sense because of not having the internet. But now with it being so interconnected, if people don't understand, they can look it up.
Yeah. I mean, let's take it like the Japanese part of it out of the equation for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Were any of you confused watching the first RoboCop movie about what Omni Consumer Products was?
No.
They didn't have to call that Walmart.
No.
But we still knew, didn't we?
Yeah.
We didn't need a massive cultural shift to figure it out.
The only thing that threw me off later on when learning about it was the fact that it was supposed to be set in Detroit, which we all know, but it was actually filmed in Texas.
Oh, of course. And again, Delta City. Delta City didn't exist. Still doesn't, by the way. But Delta City didn't exist, and we all, we figured out what that meant.
Yeah.
And,
but that was more of
for $1, and all of the advertisements. Magnavolt doesn't exist, but we all get it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that whole thing for those is that was potentially not having rights to specific things. And since this was meant to be, you know, a more science fiction movie, obviously they're going to have things we're not going to.
Right.
Because that's like if you look at older movies and instead of being like, oh, it's this chain restaurant, like they'll change the name of the chain restaurant, or it's like they have to pay the licensing to have the fucking Pepsi can in there.
Right. My point is that we got along just fine.
Yeah.
We figured it out. And if you do this, if you transplant a piece of Japanese entertainment and you keep some of the common things to Japan common, we'll figure it out too. We'll figure out that the Arigato Bar and Grill is a restaurant, you know?
Yeah.
Or the Gaijin
Well,
Palace.
and that's the reason why for some of those as well, even when they would do it in English, or especially when they did it in subtitles, they'd have that little asterisk like they will in certain mangas and whatnot, because it'll actually go through and explain.
Yes.
They have footnotes.
Yeah.
And,
But again,
we don't need the history of the business either.
Yeah.
I mean, if
You just need to
the
know it's a
business
burger
is
joint.
essential to the plot line, like say the Onigiri Bar and Grill is, you know, a secret front.
Yeah.
You know, you would
Right.
expect them to explain, and it had to be relevant. If you translate that to English, oh, the McDonald's is a secret front. No one's gonna fucking believe that the McDonald's is a secret front for anything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, it just doesn't work. And like you said, there are expressions in our language that does not exist in Japan. And
Yes.
there are expressions in Maryland and Baltimore that don't exist.
Yes, and
Yes,
Archer did a episode that had that whole thing. It's idioms don't tend to go across language barriers easily at all.
Right.
yeah.
And
'Cause
that's the
idioms
thing
are
is you
based-
don't always have to have the idioms. If you understand what the idiom is supposed to be in correlation to, you can just say what it would actually mean.
But the problem with idioms, well, hold on. I was going to say the problem with idioms is that it is usually culturally connected. Like, you know, what's a good one?
Well, as a like
okay, only great
you're breaking up. And he broke up.
Reagan can walk into. God
No,
damn it!
Only Nixon could go to China.
Yeah, only Nixon can go to China. You know, that wouldn't be relevant in, say, Japan.
Yeah.
No, probably
You know?
not. But even today, in the movie Star Trek 6, halfway as a joke and halfway as not a joke, when Spock said to Kirk, "There's an old Vulcan expression: only Nixon could go to China." You know, only Trump could walk without security into North Korea.
Yeah.
You know, these are relevant major political events. And, you know, in that story, they had, there was
Yeah, but what I was
an
getting
event
at is
that was analogous.
is they're getting ridiculous in the localization, because instead of having things like that to where it's like, oh, we're seeing idioms and that whole thing, like one of the main ones they'll put in there that people have brought up in that of localizers, some localizer did this of some chick or whatever, to where quite literally when translated over it says that person's being suspicious. They localize it to he's being a sussy baka. Nigga, what? Get
What's
that
a sussy
fucking
baka? Is
Reddit
that a
meme
Wookiee?
shit out of here.
Is
Or
that
but
Like, get that Among Us bullshit out of here. That's not, like, no, stop that shit.
that's a Wookiee, right? A
So-
sussy baka?
No, baka is actually idiot in Japanese. And the whole sussy thing came from people playing, especially the Among Us, but the VR version of it, because they could talk to each other.
Ah. Yeah, that's kind of pathetic. See, that's the other thing. If as a creative, okay, and I'm kind of a creative person.
Yeah.
I know that I have to communicate in a language that is understood by most of the people I'm trying to communicate to, my audience, as it were.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yes.
really have one. you know. So even you ever watch those guys, the newscasters? Okay, you know the one with the black dude. The bug flew in his mouth and he freaked out and he went from speaking like this as a newscaster to talking very street.
Yeah.
Shit flying in my mouth, motherfucker. Just the whole, it was a complete 180 in
Well, yeah, that's like what was it for the chick for the BBC that I think I don't know if they hired her back, but she had the whole thing of she does the countdown, and for one, she flips the middle finger and has like a little attitude, and before it can even do into the live, she's back into her newscaster stance.
Oh yes, I do recall that.
It's that whole thing of that, but for the localizing thing, it doesn't matter where it comes from. Like, I don't care if it comes from China. I don't care it's like if it comes from fucking France. That alls you had to do is translate it. Like, you're not, and the biggest one that I've seen is like the ones that are like, well, I'm making art. No, you're not, bitch.
No, you're translating art.
Yeah.
You're fucking up somebody else's.
You're wiping your ass with someone else's art is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Angela's right.
Well, because you're not changing the drawings, you're not doing anything like that, so you're not making art.
Unless they're censoring or editing.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to change the story that's already there, and that whole thing. And this isn't shit like they did with like Anime Hell or Team 4-Star has done, or even like what Shin-Chan has done, to where it's meant to be more of a parody of it.
Right.
Yeah,
it's like parody. Well, it's like parody or satire. Because like DBZ Abridged is satire.
And so is Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. All the Abridged series is done to be tongue-in-cheek. It's meant to be stupidly funny.
Yeah.
Like, they purposely make mistakes and references because it's meant to be that way.
But they're also the ones that were saying for the longest time, hey, still go support and watch the actual work.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't make it unless you were a fan of it to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of it. Now I'm getting into a kind of a different area on it, with because they will desensitize, or not desensitize. They will hypersensitize it, if you will, for the American audience, especially some of the Japanese anime stuff. That is. I mean, a lot of those are very adult stories.
Well, it all depends on
I don't mean like X-rated style.
Well, it all depends on which one it's going for, and they are meant for different age brackets, and that whole thing. Like,
yes.
Shonen animes, which are usually the most popular, are meant for like
for boys.
Yeah, they're meant for boys, but they're typically meant for teenagers.
Right.
They are
going to be that kind of material.
Yeah, and like you're going to have a little bit of etchiness, but it's not going to be. Typically, it's not going to be like high school DxD levels.
It's not going to be full out pervy.
Right.
Yeah, like you're going to have fan service and that whole thing.
Going back to all the way back to the first run of Space Battleship Yamato.
Okay.
Oh, I love that one.
In America, that was Star Blazers, if anyone's not sure.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
In Space Battleship Yamato, that was the Japanese version.
Mm-hmm.
There was one character in particular who was something of a pervert, or maybe not a pervert, but just weirdly overly interested in sex.
Yeah,
and he tended to hassle one of the female characters.
Mm-hmm.
Hassle might be a strong word, but in the American version. Oh, he was also a bit of a drunk. He was the ship's doctor, I believe. He was a bit of a drunk.
I think I know.
And he was always trying to look up a skirt or something, I think, as well. Or maybe that was the robot. I don't remember. But we'll go with the drink. He was always drinking. But in Star Blazers, the Americanized version of it, it was like spring water that he was drinking. It wasn't booze.
And it just
occurs to me that if we'd stop infantilizing our society as they grow up,
Well-
maybe we wouldn't have so many childish grown-ups today.
Well, that you
Agreed.
also have to understand that it's like the Japanese culture is going to be very different than ours. It's like we were kind of having a conversation on earlier before the stream. In Japan, it's like an anime that is very beautifully done, in my opinion, which is the F series. You have F: A Tale of Memories and F: A Tale of Melodies. In the second one, the main character is a guy in his like early 30s who's basically being pursued by a 16-year-old woman. And that's considered okay in their culture.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in their culture, 16 is essentially an age of majority.
Yeah.
You're legally an adult, in other words. And yet, you know, even in Japanese culture, some people might look down on that a bit and be
Yeah.
like, dude.
But it's one of those things that it's like, it's not something that's put there all the time.
Right.
Yes.
It's a rarity of a thing.
And it generally is based specifically on the maturity of the character.
Yes.
Right.
It just goes to the whole thing. It's like, I don't care that you're a localizer. Like, you can change some things over, but you don't put your fucking politics into it. Because the other big one was the Dragon Maid chick that for one episode, for a whole 30-second to minute scene, she's wearing the one chick's wearing a burqa. I think it's like Quetzalcoatl or something.
Mm-hmm.
And in the anime, in the actual manga and whatnot, the direct translation is, I felt like wearing something different where people really wouldn't look at me. Localized. Oh, those patriarchal bullshit and whatnot. And it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake. Why?
Oh, yeah, let me see if I can pull up the list. Hang on,
Well, it's one of those things as well. There's also been a couple of them where they've had dudes that cross-dress, which is a very common thing. And what do localizers try to say? Well, this person's trans.
They're trans.
No, they're not. Like,
It's
stop
like-
trying to change the fucking story. It's not your story.
When they made fucking the guy and fucking Cowboy Bebop female a transgender. No, he wasn't transgender. It was an experiment gone fucked up, and he got kids.
Yeah.
He didn't want them.
Well, that's like the ones that got pissed off at Tomo-chan as a girl because you have a tomboy character that's, even though she's into martial arts and more boyish stuff, like the whole fucking plot of the story is that she's interested in, a childhood friend that's her neighbor. But because of how long he first thought she was a guy, and he has a very hard time seeing her as a woman. So the whole story is, that going through to where they eventually get together as a couple.
And him having to reconcile with that.
Yeah. I mean, for some of that shit, it's just like, oh my God, you two are so sweet. It's like, this shit is so sweet. It's going to give me diabetes.
Oh, see,
Yes.
Look, I've let me apparently I've got a word jam.
Compose yourself.
I have put together a list of rules when it comes to entertainment, and it started off as a list of rules for slasher films,
Mm-hmm.
but it has a much broader
Broader.
application. And one of the rules early on, no agenda or activism.
Yeah.
Because activism ruins entertainment. Your job, your whole purpose is to entertain. Now,
Yes.
do you guys want to go through these rules that I've come up with?
Sure.
If you agree?
Oh, I'm good with it.
Because, I mean, I'm going to try to eliminate the slasher stuff because that's more specific. But I'm talking about how to
you
make
can
it successful.
you can do movies and whatnot that have a political message, and it's always been the big thing of like comic books was one of the major ones of that. Is you don't beat your audience over the head with it.
Well, here's
Okay, so
here's the
Good.
thing: politics
wait,
and activism are different things.
Yes. Because I mean, Captain
you
Planet
can
was
have-
basically activism.
Yes.
yes. I mean, all right. So we can use the example of Star Trek. TNG, TNG, DS9 had plenty of political messages. It had homosexuality. It had genderless societies. It had those messages, but they were in story form. They
Yeah.
didn't beat you over the head. And they were allegories. They didn't take a side either.
Right. They were
they didn't
political in nature without being activism.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And they were good stories that could stand up. If you remove every element of politics involved, they would stand to the test of time.
Yeah.
Those are better ways. You can tell your little shitty Tommy hippie, stories all you want. Just make them entertaining.
Oh yeah.
Don't beat us on the head with it.
Well, that's the trick. Like when Dax on Deep Space Nine ran into her ex-wife.
Yes.
It made sense because that's the nature of their society. That's a political issue, yes, in their society. And it's even a political issue insofar as her friends are concerned, because they're her friends. And they don't want to see her go down a road that could lead to pain and whatnot.
Yeah.
And, plus the negative impact that the societal taboo might have on her. It'll
make her ostracized in her society.
So, yeah, the politics of that episode makes sense. It makes sense to be part of that show. What wouldn't make sense is if they said it was because in the year 1998, gays couldn't get married in Toledo or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Then it wouldn't make sense. Then it's activism. If the show has to stop for the actors to look at the camera and say, now let this be a lesson to you kids out there, then it's activism.
If it did a old school G.I. Joe reference where knowing is half the battle.
Yeah.
The other half is violence.
But that's what I mean. Like, you could tell a good story without a good political story without beating us over the head. You don't have to be activist, or you don't even have to take a side. That's the problem.
Right.
People take.
What's another good political movie that was neither that wasn't activism? Was They Live?
Yeah.
Yes.
That movie was chock full of politics.
Oh yeah.
It didn't tell you what to think, but it gave you stuff to think about. That's another difference.
Well, like one of my personal favorites that has like the ambiguous ending that kind of borders on religion and whatnot is the original Wicker Man movie.
Yes.
Because look at how it goes through everything. Everything is implied that the sacrifice has to be made, and that whole thing. You have the skeptic, you have the the believer in God versus the believer in paganism and everything. And even though like that they went through the process to get the sacrifice they wanted, you don't see how it ends. It's left ambiguous in there.
Yeah.
Did it work? Did it not work? Who was right? Who was wrong?
And ambiguity can be a very useful tool in a movie like that. Because there's the old showmanship thing.
Yeah.
Leave the stage on a high note, and that's kind of what that does.
Yeah.
It leaves the audience wanting more.
What's a good story leaves you with questions at the end. Something to speculate. A reason.
Well, it's one of those things. A good story, it has an ending, but it still leaves you with wonder.
Yes.
A conversation.
What's that, Angela?
It leaves you able to have a conversation.
Yeah, something you can talk about your friends. Like when we do
Total Recall.
Total Recall. Perfect example. Was it honestly just a goddamn memory? Was it just him actually going through? Is it real? Is it not? Is it a dream? What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
And it's a good movie.
Yeah. It sets up this big mystery. It takes you through the steps of trying to solve the mystery. And then at the end of the movie, you're still stuck with a mystery, and you love it because you just do. It's like, oh man, they would. Well, see, then you start going back and rewatching it. This is the brilliant part. You go back, you rewatch it, and you're trying to tally up all the data points to figure out which is which. Is it a dream or is it real? Is it live or is it Memorex?
Get out of my head.
Yeah, it's like that. Like the clue, not the Sixth Sense movie. Oh shit! When you see the Sixth Sense the first time, the first run through, you go through and you don't know what's coming, right? And then you go back the second time to see if you can spot the
clues.
Yeah.
Did people really not know?
Oh yeah.
Not everyone's gonna look into the context clues and everything. No. But I mean, another one you can look into the whole thing of that is like, look at how Fight Club was.
Yeah.
Right. Fight Club is a perfect example that if you went into it blind, not knowing anything about the book, anything from anyone said about the movie, and go into it blind, there is a good reveal in that. There's still things that lead up to it. There's still little points to it, but most people aren't looking at that.
Right. And I think we sort of nitpick, not nitpick. We pick and choose which movies we're going to put that kind of attention on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and for me, it's obviously a
slashers Halloween a lot of times.
Halloween from 1978.
Mm-hmm.
Because I put a lot of watch time and observation into that movie. For someone else, it's going to be Fight Club. For someone else, it'll be Total Recall.
Yeah.
And and as much as I liked the original Total Recall movie, I'm not talking about the original stuff by Philip K. Dick. I'm talking about the first movie.
The Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah. I'm just not going to watch that the same way I'm going to watch Halloween. Because Halloween is just more interesting to me.
Sorry.
And my point is everyone's got their point of interest where they're going to spend more energy and more observational time to work things out, to get to the bottom of things with that particular bit of entertainment. Those are the people who the filmmakers should be calling upon for.
Oh, yeah.
For help me out here, as resources to get a good film made.
Yes.
Yeah, because like you'll have people that they will set too much into like how guns are used in movies, or you'll hear like how I've got friends who are firefighters and there's specific movies about firefighting. They can't stand in that whole thing. Like you'll have those subjects, or just ones that will, as you've done with that specific movie. I mean, how many times on Rotten Movie Reviews tier have we gone into the whole thing of, we look at what their base storyline was in a movie that's usually shitty and changed 2 or 3 things, and now it's something that could be more enjoyable.
Yes.
Right. And you want to know the weird part? Is The Room is a very bad movie, but it's a very good movie.
It's so good it's bad.
Well, no, it's so bad it's
it's
good.
So bad it loops around.
What happens with The Room is it's such a bad movie that it still winds up being entertaining, and that is the whole point, is to be entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the chat, Mr. Scott and I are kind of making fun of it. Oh, hi, Mark.
I mean, that's the most common joke from that.
Lisa,
you're tearing me apart, Lisa.
I did not hit her. I did not.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
I know. There's just so much in The Room. The Room's a great example too of how there are people that sit and watch and rewatch The Room, and I can't blame them because it's a damned entertaining movie for being so bad. I can't watch it alone is my problem.
I've
That's a
never
movie
seen
for
it.
me. I got to be with people watching that.
But at least from
it's
my
another
understanding
fine
is you can
example.
say that it doesn't insist upon itself.
Right, exactly. I never got what Peter Griffin meant by that. I guess Seth MacFarlane really, when he did that bit about The Godfather, it insists upon itself. Until I
I don't think
started really thinking about activism, and that's what activism does.
Yeah.
It insists upon itself.
Yes, it is. It is so great because they believe it's so great.
Yeah.
That's why, like, other than really Polydub for it, because he'll openly admit that he watches dumb movies occasionally as well. The people I have not gotten along, well, that I have not gotten along with when it comes to movies a lot of times are the ones that are like, I don't watch movies. I watch films.
Oh, get over yourself.
And I'm like, you're joyless. Got it.
you're
Yeah.
pretentious. I believe you have your own funds.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with enjoying like the cinematography and all the jazz like that. But the biggest thing as well, like I've brought up to a lot of people, is being entertained.
Yep. Well, see, that being entertained is the core of my movie rating system.
Yeah.
It's first thing, did I like it? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
What worked for me, what didn't work for me, and would I recommend it? That's my criteria. And and it's because I don't want look, the first time you watch a movie, you kind of let it wash over you, right?
Yeah.
You don't sit there and nitpick the details right away, unless it's something that's glaring to you.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I always hate on that one is like if I recommend something to someone that I may have to go in there and been like, okay, going with my prime example of this. Back in the day when Team America first came out, I saw it in theaters and I thought it was hysterical. I told one of the guys I went to school with, I was like, dude, I was laughing my ass off at it. And apparently he went in this with this highbrow expectation. And he's like, I didn't like it, this, that. I'm like, huh? Like, were you taking it seriously? You realize it's from the creators of South Park, right? What? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Well, see, that's another aspect is sometimes you do have to understand a bit of context going into a film. But that's where the conceits come in.
Yeah.
A Star Trek movie or any bit of Star Trek entertainment needs to have certain things to be, to operate within the bounds of it being Star Trek.
Yeah.
Lately, we haven't gotten any of that. We've got stuff that looks like it sometimes, but overall, we don't.
Yeah,
we
Star
don't,
Trek
we
adjacent
don't
stuff.
watch. We don't get any Star Trek anymore. Not since 2005, 2009, whatever. And it's
Sure.
it's because it's been put in the hands of people who don't know what Star Trek is. Same thing with Star Wars. Same thing with Indiana Jones. With I don't know what happened with the Marvel films, but my God, the people who were in charge then are still in charge for the most part. Kevin Feige, and
The one chick.
it's as though he's been threatened. You'll lose your job if you don't do these things in these movies.
Yeah.
That's how they're behaving. Russell T. Davis on Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, don't get me started on that poor man. I hope
He brought the show
Right.
back. He brought the show back successfully.
Well, look at for Star Wars how the first season of The Mandalore, like people brought like this is Star Wars. It brought back all of that wonder and shit, and then they got stupid.
Yep.
they got greedy.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of there were some other things going on behind the scenes that weren't helping it out any. One of those things was Pedro Pascal, because he was always behind the mask and he wanted his face front and center. That's the kind of
Same reason why
That's the kind of conflict you resolve before you go into production.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's why I still liked the Dread movie with Carl Urban.
Yeah, something.
Because in that one, like quite literally, it was in his contract that when he is on set for that, he is to wear the helmet. That's why I told my dad, it's like, okay, well, the original Judge Dredd movie is entertaining. It's a Stallone movie.
Well, yeah, it's the first Judge Dredd movie is very much a cartoon compared to what Carl Urban did.
Oh yeah.
And that Carl Urban movie did some very interesting things. Some of the things I liked that it did, Sunshine Day. You know, the daytime looked like daytime. Daytime didn't look like daytime with a night filter because it's a dark and edgy movie. You know, it wasn't all storm clouds. Oh, fuck you, movie. Even in dystopias, you have sunshine.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I liked that part because it lended. See, what that does is it lends verisimilitude. Is everyone familiar with that word? Because I know that's a rough word.
I know the word.
Not exactly.
All right. Verisimilitude. Think about holding up a mirror and angling it just a little bit. It's so you get a sense of reality without it actually being reality. You could look at it that way. But it's a very important component to have in your writing or productions because it helps people to understand what you're talking about. I'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with Asimov's psychohistory?
Not offhand.
Okay.
Nope.
In some of Asimov's works, and I hope it was Asimov, or I'm just going to misquote the hell out of this, or misattribute, not misquote. One of the things he dealt with in some of the books was the concept of psychohistory, which is predicting how history will play out in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he did this was they would take current data points based on groups of people and extrapolate them outwards. The thing is, you couldn't do it with individuals. It wouldn't work. But if you did it with groups, large groups, you know, the larger the group, the more accurate the the prediction would be.
Yeah.
That would work. So you really, and it does kind of work in reality. You can always predict what a group of people will do, but like, for example, the Republicans, you can predict that they'll pussy out and send more money to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
But an individual Republican, you're not going to be able to predict. Not with any kind of accuracy like you can with a group, because part of the issue becomes groupthink.
Yeah.
And with groupthink, things become more and more predictable. I forgot the point I was going to make because I got all into this background shit. God damn it.
Oh.
See, there was verisimilitude, psychohistory. Oh. So anyway, in explaining a concept of psychohistory in a book, it was a Star Trek book where they were adapting the concept to a Star Trek story.
Mm-hmm.
A Starfleet admiral was getting an explainer from a Vulcan on the concept of psychohistory. And what in the dialogue between them, the Starfleet admiral just said, popcorn. And the Vulcan's like, what? He's like, popping corn. Put all the kernels of corn into a pan with some oil, heat it up, and you can predict to the instant when the first kernel will pop, but you can't predict which kernel it will be.
Yeah.
And you know, that's verisimilitude. That's holding up the mirror and cocking it slightly. Using the popping corn analogy, you can explain the psychohistory in a much more efficient way than what I just did. But I had to do it the way I did to get to the popping corn reference. But that's verisimilitude. You give people data points that they can understand, and you use them you apply them to a much grander concept. And it just helps your audience understand what's going on. It's one of the things more films should do. Right along with how about this one? Tell the story in order from start to finish.
Yeah.
Can we have some of that back, please?
That would be so nice.
Yes.
That was actually one of the things that partially screwed over the psychological thriller of what was supposed to be the second Blair Witch movie, Book of Shadows.
How so?
They put shit out of order for what it was supposed to be. Like, they show in the beginning the dude who's supposed to be the tour guide being in like an insane asylum. That was actually supposed to be at the end of the movie.
See, I gotta watch
All
that
right,
movie again.
So non-linear storytelling can work.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just most of them are bad at it.
Here's what
Like,
I'm getting at with
Kill Bill.
Oh, go on.
I'm about to say Kill Bill has non-linear story. The first Kill Bill movie has non-linear storytelling. It's all told in like flashbacks, but she's already done some of these shit. Like her going to kill Ava, Vivica Fox. That shit, it's told out of order.
Oh yeah, like Reservoir Dogs and the other one, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all told out of order. It's supposed to be like little stories interconnected and interwoven, but it's non-linear storytelling. Or you could have where the framing device is the event after the aftermath, like in Birdie. Like the framing device is that those two are already in the insane, or not the insane, but it's after the war. They're already adults, and the story is being told backwards. So it can non-linear storytelling can work.
Oh yeah, it absolutely can.
It's just done shittily, like he said.
Well, see, especially if it's in one movie. Reservoir Dogs, that was the first non-linear thing that Tarantino released, I believe, and that worked beautifully.
Yes,
I actually enjoyed Reservoir Dogs.
What's that?
I enjoyed Reservoir Dogs. It's the
great
only
movie.
Quentin Tarantino movie.
It's a brilliant movie.
Yes,
brilliant presentation, and it works. However, what Tarantino did not do was wait till 6 movies later and then try to tell the story of how, what was his name? Joe? The old man. I don't need proof when you got instinct. Joe. That was Joe, right? The fucking thing.
It's been a long time since I've seen the movie.
Lawrence Tierney is the actor's name. But yeah, I think that was Joe. But we didn't need a prequel telling us about how Joe got his first gun.
Yeah.
And how he got into we didn't need any of that shit. So Tarantino didn't produce it. That's what I mean by tell your story from start to finish. It applies to multiple movies rather than how you're telling the story in a single movie.
Yeah.
But that wasn't relevant to the car. Like, we didn't need... All right, so the shit like Solo never needed to be made. Like, no one gave a damn about how he got his name. No one cared about how he got the Falcon. We already knew he had the Falcon because it was his ship. We didn't need to know that he wanted Lando. Like that.
Well, that was the thing.
Technically, they tell you.
When Lando's introduced, it gets brought up about that. So boom, that explains it. You don't have to have a whole visual process over it.
Well, not only that. We had 3 movies with Han Solo. Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. In all 3 of those movies, there are different parts of Solo's story that are explored. Then we get this movie Solo, and somehow every single thing that developed the Han Solo character happened in one adventure.
Yeah.
Horseshit.
Yes.
He got the dice at the same time he got the name, at the same time that he got the ship. Oh, fuck you, movie. That's bad
that's
storytelling.
We didn't need to know the origin of his name.
No, we didn't need to know any of it. We already knew he was an ex-Imperial.
Yeah, and then all you could have said was we could have assumed that he chose that name himself. I mean, it sounded fucking cool. So I'm Han Solo. Okay. Why'd you choose the name? Know your damn business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when they revealed all the information about how Wolverine became Wolverine. We didn't need that.
Well, I mean, they did it for a
Wolverine.
They did it for
an interesting character when his past was a mystery. Go on.
Well, they did that for a comic book and the whole thing, and like that storyline's not bad the way they did in the comic. The way they went about it in the whole thing for the movie, they just added way too much into it. From everything I'm aware of for the Weapon X project, they don't talk about before he was into it and after he was into it. It goes over. He gets brought into it, gets the adamantium, the missions that they put him on in said thing, and then him somehow breaking the conditioning and escaping from there, but not knowing anything else.
Right. Mr. Scott says, I wanted the Dash Rendar movie, not Han Solo. Yeah. Dash Rendar or even Kyle Katarn. For fuck's sake.
Shit. There were a shit ton of other characters that they could have made stories about that would have been epic. Like you said, Kyle Katarn, the Imperial Jedi who the fucking first Jedi Academy game. He would have been a great character to do a movie on. Fuck shit. Go Revan. Everybody loved fucking Revan. Do a Revan movie.
I would angle away from doing a Revan movie.
Yeah.
The reason why is because his story is already told.
All right, I got one better for you. There's very much fertile time. There's 15,000 years in between the last fucking Old Republic game and A New Hope. That is so fertile territory that you could never touch another Skywalker story ever again.
Yeah,
that's my thing too with Star Wars is I wouldn't go into the past. I'd go into the future because, like I said, here's where because of Star Trek, okay? Because after the original series, Next Gen, DS9, Voyager, and then we go way back with Enterprise, and we haven't been past Voyager since. Not really. You could say a Star Trek Insurrection or Nemesis. You could say Star Trek Nemesis because that technically takes place after Voyager.
Okay, it does.
But ever since then, it's all been backward. Meanwhile, in the real world, the technology keeps growing and expanding and improving. So all the stuff that has apparently taken place before the original series looks way better than the original series. And it makes things out of balance.
What's the saying? Why does ancient technology look better than modern technology?
Yeah. Well, with Star Wars, it wouldn't be near as bad. The biggest thing that they need to do, in all reality, is let the whole thing with the Skywalkers finally die. The reason that's the reason why The Mandalorian worked so well for that first season was because it had nothing to do with the original Star Wars trilogy. It was a fucking side story, which is all they needed to fucking do.
But the mistake they made.
They brought
in that first season was it still took place within the Skywalker time frame. And they do that on purpose. Oh, we can have this guy show up and we can have this be. Look, there's a space robot.
Yeah, because of member berries.
Yeah.
To basically quote fucking South Park on that, it's because of member berries. It's the reason. It's the same reason why in like Legend of Korra they do some some updates and everything, but all of a sudden so much shit is heavily relying on what happened in The Last Airbender.
Right.
And that's another thing that should have been that should have been changed. Korra should have been the second waterbender after Aang. Like it should have went through a whole cycle again, and then it should have landed on Korra. That way, you don't touch any of the old shit. You can make references to, oh yeah, the people view Katara as a patron saint. After she died like a trillion years ago, her legend is deified for some odd reason. Aang is deified because he was the last airbender, but he restored the entire fucking nation somehow with Katara.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing is they keep trying to stick too much into the thing of this is recognizable. It's the reason why when it comes to movies and a lot of things, I actually give, and I know some people don't like to throw it in there, the 90s was like the dying era of it, or the last real era of it, to where
kind of
movies and TV shows were more willing to go out on a limb and try things.
Right. Now, see, the way I would do it with Star Wars, this is such an easy thing to figure out. But apparently no one in Hollywood can think. I don't know. But my idea is you look at what exists. And they all start the same way, don't they? A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Even the games.
Yes.
Even the games start with that. So let's say, for example, we want to get out of the Skywalker era and leave it behind. We have to move forward. So what do we do with the new Star Wars project that is going to be, part of the point is to get out of the Skywalker thing. Instead of saying a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, we set it maybe 5 or 10,000 years later in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And it simply says in a galaxy far, far away.
I mean, hell, you don't even have to say how long. You could still just go with it. It's
still going to be recognizable
as
a Star Wars thing, but it's no longer a long time ago.
Instead of saying just in a galaxy far, far away, you could say some time ago. Because some time ago can be anywhere from like a few weeks ago to a couple thousand years.
Yeah. But behind the scenes, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? So you're setting it thousands of years after the Skywalker saga, and we're going to get a new saga. We're going to create new characters. Maybe we have the equivalent to the Jedi who is, let's do it right this time. If we want to have a girl Jedi, let's have a girl not Padawan, apprentice. We're going to drop the word Padawan because it's a stupid word. Let's have a girl apprentice, but she's not very strong in the Force. Instead of being, the next big thing in the Force, she's just an average nobody in the Force. She has Force ability, but she's just not that strong in it.
Shit.
So instead of after she does the lightsaber training with the Jedi to increase her skill, they actually her Jedi master sends her to an honest to God swordsman who is so good with the sword that he is on par with the Jedi.
Yeah.
But
he's not a Force sensitive at all.
All right, so what I was about to say was, I like originally when they presented Sabine and fucking Ahsoka, what they should have done with her was make her, she is shit at Force ability, but she is phenomenal with the saber. There is canonically a Jedi Master who can't use the Force, but he is such a beast with the saber that they because he's taken down fucking Sith before by himself with just the saber abilities.
Right.
I mean, if anything, you can make it that they can have a sense of the Force, but they can't use it.
Yeah, like he just has shit Force control, which is perfectly fine.
Well, and the cool part about having having your main character being an apprentice who is weak in the Force is they got shit to overcome. They ain't gonna be no damn Mary Sue.
Well, yeah, that's always been the thing. It's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
For any of the movies that are TV shows are going to be like this, you always have to have the hero's journey. That's why, like, I bring up of how, from everything I know of Legend of Korra, I'm not the biggest fan, but they did Avatar: The Last Airbender right. Aang had a problem with learning firebending because most of
All the shit he
firebending,
went through.
all the shit he went through, plus when he first started learning it, he accidentally hurt someone he cared about.
And see, now that right there, that's a great angle because
Well,
it puts a psychological scar in place.
Well, you have that, and then you also have it when he goes to learn earthbending, since it's the polar opposite in the show for the elements, it's the polar opposite. And
Yeah.
Night Mr. Scott,
Earth, he can't learn it.
he has a hard time because for everything it gets brought up, like for everything he knows of airbending, it's always to find a different angle to be able to go around it. But for earthbending, it's not finding a different angle, it's confronting it. It's standing your ground.
Yeah.
Go through it.
Yeah.
Like you can't
Green
avoid
Badger.
it. You have to go through it. Yo, Green.
Oh, good night, Mr.
Yeah,
Scott.
it's one of those things like if
Hey, Mr. Scott.
Not Mr.
Eh,
Scott.
if you've never seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, I still highly recommend the original series. Its artwork isn't great, but it's good enough to where the action sequences are still good.
Well, see,
the-
isn't that kind of a thing, though? You watch the original Star Trek, and before they'd remastered it
Yeah,
for visual
Yeah,
effects,
it
it was
looked
still a fun
rough.
show.
yeah. Well, it's like that's why I've brought it before. It's like in one of the episodes to where they get Aang all decked out in armor and whatnot, and it looks really cool and everything. And like he brings up a whole thing of how he'll use a sword hilt to wind bend, and that'll be his quote unquote wind sword. They were making fun of TV shows, especially for the animated ones, that have really great art but really bad animation.
Right. Look at oh, help me out here. I just had it.
Describe it.
Bitch.
You want to describe it?
Oh, video games.
Okay.
Is anyone else old enough to have played the original XCOM
Yes.
on, like, I think it was DOS and Windows 3.1 or something?
I'm not old enough. I played the original XCOM.
Now,
I did not play that, but I have played like the original Nintendo. Plus, my first games into a lot of that was like, what's your lucky number on an actual original like 6.5-inch floppy disk.
Okay.
Yeah.
That qualifies. Because look at how much fun games used to be. I mean, they used to release full fucking games. They used to be fun, and you could spend hours not just playing it, but also replaying it
Well,
to get a
that's
different experience.
that's
I
why.
use XCOM as an example because that's a great fucking example of it.
Well, I can bring up the Resident Evil games, especially the originals, which is why I don't heavily criticize the 2 and 3 remake, other than they should have done more with 3 instead of releasing the stupid RE verses or whatever thing. The biggest thing for the replay value on those was you got graded on how well you did. So it was based upon how well you used your items, how well you figured out how to get through the areas, to not get hurt, to take down the bosses you actually have to fight. And by doing that, they'd all, like, if you got above specific grades at specific difficulties, they would give you special weapons or access to special weapons.
Yeah. They rewarded you for getting
Yeah.
better and playing the game more.
Well, yeah, they kind of did
You
that
know.
with the original XCOM when you did research and you could design your base with different facilities,
Yeah.
and your gameplay was determined by what facilities you put in place and how many bases you had and how well equipped they were and how many fighter jets you had and what kind of strike teams you could send out to take care of the alien invasion. And they very wisely, when they reintroduced XCOM as a game property, they kept a lot of those original gameplay elements. So it was very much like playing the original.
Yeah.
They were very smart about that. But you look at let's take Command and Conquer. That whole thing up until Command and Conquer 4 in the Tiberium verse.
Oh God, don't remind me.
Was great real-time strategy, but once you got to 4 and they decided to change the nature of the game.
I'll be back in just a moment.
Right on. When they decided to change the nature of the game, they killed it.
Yes.
They never should have tried to change the nature of the game. New things, certainly. But,
or what they should have done, want to do that, do a spinoff.
Well, yeah, they should have introduced, but they should have introduced another Command and Conquer universe. Because, you had Red Alert, the Tiberium universe, and Generals.
Yeah, motherfucker, I love the Red Alert. That shit is fucking hilarious to me.
But even Red Alert 3 is a shit game by comparison. I think it was Red Alert 3 that required you to be online.
Yeah. Because Red Alert 2 is one of my favorite games.
Red Alert 2 was fun.
It had the best. It had Tim Curry going, I'm going to the one place where capitalism isn't there.
That was 3, I believe.
That was 2.
Are you guys still talking Command and Conquer?
Yeah.
Never played those games. Just never got into them. Oh, what I was going with...
The point being, the Command and Conquer games were great real-time strategy until they decided to dick around with the concept.
Yeah.
They were still real-time strategy, but you had zones that you had to control on each map.
Yeah. Well, it's like one of the big things I've brought up with a lot of people, and I used to criticize FPS a lot, especially games like Call of Duty. And it is one of those things, especially after talking with one of my other friends about way back when. He's like, look, you cannot like Call of Duty. I'm 100% fine with that. He's like, I like it. He goes, and they do exactly what I want to. They give us basically a different skinned map. It's rarely new. Better graphics. Not really changing game mechanics. And depending on what it is, you'll get one that has a little bit of a story in that whole thing as well for the single player. Otherwise, it's typically put it going through in PvP.
Yep. You want a good example. It's like playing poker. You get together with your friends to play poker, but someone wants to introduce a round in the betting process where you spin a roulette wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then depending on where the chess piece lands, that's where you stopped being a good game developer.
Yeah.
Or when you
play Mahjong Tiddlywinks.
Yeah. Or imagine
imagine, if you will,
Mahjong, but it's a ranged game.
Yeah, Mahjong Tiddlywinks.
That's a great thought.
But again, I don't knock the developer. I don't knock anyone for trying something new or unique or different. It's just that if you're gonna, have you ever played Metal Gear?
Well, what I was gonna say for games like that is you can try the new mechanics. Just do a 2-mode variation. So basically, you'll have classic for all the people that like that. And you say, hey, by the way, we want to try out some things in this whole thing. So we have a secondary mode. So after you beat classic, you can try the secondary mode, or from the get-go, that's going to have some of the classic characteristics, but some of the other stuff in there as well. And then we're looking for feedback. If you guys want it to continue, we can still keep the classic, but we can change variations on this. So you'll always have the classic mode that'll get a little bit of updates to it, just basically to make things more mainlined. and that, but otherwise we'll reserve all this stuff we're going to experiment for into the new one.
Well, yeah, and there's another angle on when it comes to video games as entertainment. The replayability part is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Command and Conquer 3, I believe that one was called Tiberium Wars. Or no.
Tiberium Sun.
No, that was 2.
I have no clue.
No, maybe it was Tiberium Wars. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. But Command and Conquer 3 had been played for over 10 years after its release by a shit ton of people because of the mods that were released for it by basically it's third party independent developers.
I mean, hell, you can look at that shit for like the Sim City, the Sims itself. Because I think the Sims came off of Sim City.
Yes, it did.
And that whole thing of that there are still people that will go back and play those original games.
Right. And it's because there's such a big modding community that keeps those games active.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems I think with the MMO.
And there's just some people that enjoy them.
Oh yeah. I mean, who was it? Eastwood Studio. Who was it? EA. Electronic Arts. There we go. Yeah. They
killed
fuck.
Well, I mean, for a lot of the games that were like the MMO RPGs and whatnot, what kind of killed them, I think the only one that is still typically around that hasn't changed too much is WoW.
And WoW pisses me off.
I don't even touch that game, to be honest.
No. All right. So again, this is a lore perspective. There's a particular reason why they banished this one character, Illidan, because they couldn't fucking kill him. And WoW takes place at least 10, 20 years after Illidan's banishment, and then they kill him in a raid. No, you don't fucking do that. Like, right. Illidan should be just as unfucking killable as he is, because it's only been 20 years and nothing significant has happened in time to make him kill.
No, if anything you go through, it's not that you guys go through and kill him. It's people are keeping them at bay, and you're going through a whole thing just to rebanish him.
Yes, but they actively killed him. That shit pisses the fuck out, pisses me off to know
that. Or if they're gonna do something like that, it's not the actual person that or it's like actual creature or deity type thing that you're killing in that whole thing. It's a illusion of it.
Right. Oh yeah, that would work.
So then it'd be like a cheap imitation. You're not actually taking out the one thing. Like there are ways you can go about doing that. It's just they don't think of them.
Right. Well, they're too busy again with the member berries thing.
Yeah.
But
member berries.
One of the things that kills me about the MMO as a business model is that it seems like the publishers and developers want this big return on the investment without the investment part.
Yeah.
After a while, they release the game. Like Star Trek Online is coming up, I think, on its 14th anniversary. DC Universe Online has been around almost as long, I think. But the actual development of these games has halted. It's almost all cosmetic changes, and that's it. Like they'll take a map where they had one method of operation to complete the map, and just redress it with different art and call that development. Well, that's not development.
No, like the one I'll still give props to is from what I'm aware of, and I still need to play it at some point, is Valve for Half-Life 2. All the updates and everything that they've made have been like DLC content and everything.
Yeah,
doesn't cost you anything.
Really?
Like they came out with new stuff and were flat and simple like, oh, how much is this going to cost me? And I think it's Gabe, the guy who originally made Half-Life, where all the memes come that the joke of every time someone asks me about Half-Life 3, I back it. It's like I bring it back, or it's like I take the release date and bring it back a year, or push it back a year. Is a joke off that one. But yeah, he basically saw it now, and he's like, no, these people have paid for the game. They're still paying. It's like they're still playing the game. It's like it's over 20 years old. I'm not gonna make them pay for that. Like this is done as a passion thing.
Right.
He's like, people still buy. It's like, well, still buy this game and buy it for others. Like, why would I ever fucking try to like by doing that? Yeah, replace that. By doing that, I'm bringing more business here because they're more willing to try out our other products. If we're trying, it's one of the big reasons why I've always had a problem with companies that want to try to nickel and dime you out of everything in one game. And it's like, by doing that, if they're spending the money there, you're not getting money in other areas that can go towards actual development.
Right. And it's the same cock and bull story from game developers.
Yes.
And I want to be clear though. I'm not talking about the developers themselves. I'm talking about the publishing company, whoever's
the studios,
the purse strings, studios, publishers, whatever. Whoever's controlling the purse strings, it's always the same fucking story. Oh, our game's doing great. We've got a lot of people doing blah, 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 blah. Why aren't you developing it? Oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Have you seen the new thing? Have you seen the new Gamble box? Jesus. Gamble boxes. Fuck me. In Star Trek Online, there was the first, I think it was the 10th year anniversary. They did a legendary ships, which was basically, it was a ship pack with all the legendary ships from all the TV shows up to Discovery, I think at that point. Or up to and including Discovery at that point. And that pack would sell for $300 and something.
Yes.
Okay. Here's the thing. I like to fly one, maybe two kinds of ships. Why do I want to buy all those other ships? Why don't you let me buy the ships that I want instead of forcing me to buy all these ships that I don't want and have all this gear that I don't need? But they don't want to separate the shit out. But they did wind up eventually, because now they if you complete a year-long campaign of different events, you can get a token to buy one of those premium ships individually. But still, that takes you a year. Just let me buy the fucking ship I want to buy. Let me, if you have a way for me to convert the in-game currency to do so, let me do it.
Yeah, that's why I've always I don't have problems with games that have been like, hey, if you want to purchase this stuff, that's cool. But still let people be able to go through and use the in-game currency to get it.
Right, because that is another genuine revenue stream. Because someone is paying real money to buy that currency to trade with the other players.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, let me spend my $30 to get the one ship I want instead of $300 and something bucks to get a bunch of shit I don't want and can't use.
Yeah.
For example, my Defiant class ships, they got quad cannons because that's the Defiant, right?
Okay.
But you can only mount one of them. So if I get that legendary pack with a slightly different Defiant that I would use, I'm still going to get that same quad cannon that I can't equip because I can only equip one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you charging me so much fucking money?
Yeah.
Why isn't that prorated?
Well,
you'll never get a straight answer out of them, because I'm convinced now that game developers are told not to discuss or not to participate in the game forums.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me as any part of it, because that's always been my thing, is if you have anything, the only thing I've never really been to thing of not everyone being able to get is pre-order purchase stuff, predominantly back in the day. Yeah. The only ones that I had an issue with on that was if it was again, I'll go back to Call of Duty. it was Call of Duty. It's like, okay, you'd pre-order it, you'd get some like different weapon skins, maybe access to a different weapon early on or something, and that. But there was a couple like, oh, by pre-ordering, it's like you get access to this map that no one else gets access to unless they pre-ordered it. Well, then no one's really going to use that map, or you're only going to have pre-order people use that map. Like,
Right.
I don't care if you're going to be like, hey, you get access to this map earlier than everyone else.
Yeah. See, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Because if you have a regular release date for the map and you get people doing the pre-orders have early access instead of
Yeah.
exclusive access.
But if it's just like a skin, like that doesn't bother me. If they're like, oh, well, you only can get that with the pre-order. Okay, that's a skin.
I mean, I like
as
that.
long
like,
as it doesn't
tangible.
as
Something
long
that
as
isn't game.
as long as it doesn't change or have any extra stuff that would like change game mechanics or strengthen or whatnot for your character.
Yeah,
Like the having a skin is fine.
Right.
Exclusive skin that is only for pre-orders, shit like that. I agree. You know, I just like and then I just like, you know, what if it's something that I wanted? Oh well, pre-order, and I didn't know about it, so now I fucking can't get it ever again.
Yeah. And what's up, Batman?
Yo, Batman. You know, it's something, it is something now I can never get.
Yeah.
That I see it and I want it, and I would be willing to pay $2-3 for it, you know.
Because that was like when I originally got the Resident Evil 2 remake. I did it on my PS4, and since I pre-ordered it, you know, I got the whole thing to where it's like I got a couple of the, like I for pre-ordering it with the one that I did, I, you know, got all the different samurai edges with them. Well, I ended up rebuying it when I was on my computer as well because I don't use my fucking PS4 for too much, or to like watch movies or Netflix or whatnot. But guess what? I can still go through and buy all the fucking costumes and buy all 3 versions of the samurai edge you don't get in the game.
Yeah.
It was basically a, hey, if you pre-ordered it, you got these things without having to pay for them. Or it's like you got them for paint, because like with this, either they're with the special edition, but because of the pre-order, you got these things without having to pay extra for them.
Yeah.
But everyone else still has access to them.
Right. You want to know another a big money pit problem with the MMO model? Is if it's a well-known property like Star Wars or Star Trek, whatever it is, if it's one of those types of established properties, they're going to waste all kinds of money with stunt casting.
Oh,
we got what's her face? Kate Mulgrew, yay.
And she only had like 5 lines of dialogue and
they'll give her at least in Star Trek Online, they'll give her all kinds of dialogue.
Yeah.
But the more dialogue they give her, the less gameplay they develop. You know, it's a waste of money, especially when the story that takes place in this game takes place long after Voyager returned home.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe on occasion we might get a reference to some of these people, but to hire them, and they're, you know, look, Kate Mulgrew is a big ticket item for a game, okay?
But they brought her back for the
Nemesis.
The Incursion. No, they brought her back for the Incursion storyline where she is the Mirror Universe shit.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the thing I haven't always liked about MMOs, with the free ones was typically the pay to play, like the pay to get pay for better stuff type thing.
The pay to win.
Yeah, pay to win.
Yeah,
I didn't really mind the way WoW did their pay to play, basically to have the subscription fee. My issue was when they did it with cards, the way it went about. I think Final Fantasy 14 took that and did what it should have been done with it, to where they're like, okay, you buy X amount of time frame that you can play Final Fantasy 14 because that helps us keep our servers. Guess what? That time only starts to go down of what you have when you're logged in and playing.
Right.
With WoW, it was okay, you have a 30, it's like you bought 30, like 30, 60 days, whatever of WoW. As soon as you redeem that, your ticker started.
Good luck.
And it's like, that's kind of bullshit, bro.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see. Again, it's all that weird nickel and diming shit they do. And in a lot of cases, it's because they're spending money in the wrong places.
Yeah.
One day I swear I'm gonna do this, but I want to wait until Star Trek Online can figure out how to defeat a loading screen.
Ha. No, I got one for you. So you may not know this, and this is not that obscure, but there's a series of games made by this company named called Creative Assembly. Creative Assembly, instead of giving the customer what they wanted, which is a new series of games, they pivoted into an area where they had no business being in. They tried to make an MMO shooter, and they spent so much money that they increased the price of a DLC, which would normally be $14, like $7 extra, and it pissed the fan base off.
Oh yeah.
Like, and they have been giving us shit product for a hot minute now, mind you. So, and then when they came out with their next game, everybody looked like this is a step down from what we were getting, in like 20 years, like 10 years ago. Like, this is clearly a degradation. And because you spent all this money trying to make this this MOBA that nobody fucking wanted,
Yeah.
you're strapped for cash, and you're increasing prices and shit. When we told you we didn't want this shit, so that's another issue with gaming. They pivot too much from what their fans want, and think they could tap into this mysterious new market.
Well,
They had no fucking being in.
You have to respect the market that you have. It makes sense to expand where you can, but if you're expanding at the expense of the market that you already have a firm grasp on, you're being a moron. You're essentially standing on stage and saying, "What? Don't you guys not have phones?"
And that's another thing. Mind you, they're already a niche company. Like, they make one type of game, and it's very niche. Like, it's a grand strategy war game. Sometimes it's historical, sometimes it's ahistorical, but it's a niche set of games. Like, the fan base for that is a particular set of fans. They aren't interested in fucking MOBAs, and if they arena shooters and computer shooters and shit like that. And if they are, they're not coming to you for that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it took, quote, obviously, Magnum Force, man's got to know his limitations.
Yeah, man's got to know his limitations. And you guys, and I can respect you for doing something out your wheelhouse.
Well, what I was going to say is, like, yeah, you have that whole thing of you're going to try something new, which is, it's fine, but do that as like a different game, or as I said, to where you're like, hey, we still have the standard, and here's a different thing you can try with it. Yeah, I will openly admit there are times that fans don't always know what they want, or what they think they want isn't what they actually want. Now, that tends to be more for movies than it does to be for games, but usually what happens on that, to be honest, is poor execution.
Yes.
Yeah.
They think they're trying to give, or they think they're giving people what they want, but they poorly execute it.
I wish game companies would stop trying to chase this magical unicorn of a wider audience. It
is a bit of a unicorn, but I think it's not as much of a unicorn as we might want to believe. I think the trick is, like I said, to try to expand, but don't do it at the expense of the market you already have a grasp on.
Yes. You play to your fan base. It's like, fuck, I can't remember who I heard it from, but it's like, as Gene Simmons has said, there's a reason why Kiss is still popular and well known today, because of male fans.
Yep.
And not just to say male fans in general, but it's your core fan base. That's the biggest thing that's killed Star Wars. It's the biggest thing that's killed Star Trek. And it's been killing the fucking Doctor Who, Marvel, is you keep looking at who your core fan base is and saying, this is no longer for you.
Yep.
We don't care about
keep
you.
pissing
And
us
it's like,
off.
they're the ones who have been keeping you afloat. Like, there's a
in the
reason
case-
why artists that will make furry stuff have a lot of fucking money. Because apparently in so many things, furries have really good jobs, and it's usually in the tech industry.
Well, it's for the case of Doctor Who, it's a 50-year, it's almost a 60, 70-year product, you know, and it's been kept alive because people loved it. Like,
Yeah. It started
say
in
this again.
fucking black and white.
Yeah, I remember sitting with my grandmother as a child. I'm 38. I'll be 38 this year. Or next year, sorry. I watching Doctor Who, Tom Baker as the 14th Doctor being this wild man in a box, you know, solving fucking riddles.
Yeah.
As a little kid. And
Yeah.
I've loved it since. But now it's become this, oh, well, it's not for me. It, you know, Lord be damned. You know, all that 50 years of history that you learned, all that 60, 70 years of history that you learned about this one character, and we decided it doesn't matter anymore.
I do blame this partially on the movie industry, and I don't know exactly where it started, but it's always come from the subverting expectations. And
God,
I
certain
don't
expectations.
care what you want to say, or it's like which one you can do episodes to where you kind of subvert expectations, but like the biggest thing with TV shows is kind of having everything stay the same until the series is going to end.
Well, a little bit. There's
Yeah.
You can do serialized and episodic at the same time. You know, you don't have to be on a streaming service to do a serialized story.
Oh no.
Shit.
And if you're gonna do serialized in that whole thing, and this is again to where I can bring up Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I also my favorite one to bring up for this is especially once season 2 or 3, 2 I think it is, of NCIS hits, there is an overarching storyline for the season.
Right.
But each episode, unless it's one, you know, you might have one that takes 1 or 2 episodes and whatnot for that, but majority of the episodes are episodic, but that overarching plot line is still in the background.
It's still in play.
Shit,
Yeah.
Most of the old television show was episodic with a overarching plot line. Buffy had one season where Glory was the fucking big bad. Everything was leading up to them fighting Glory at some point, you know. The Dominion War, like it was still in the backdrop, it was still going on, but they had they had episodes where they were dealing with fucking Mord and shit, you know.
Yeah.
You can do that, but nowadays, like I'll use Picard as the example, it's one serialized thing, and it's a detriment to what Star Trek is. It's a detriment to what these series are.
That's why I bring up for my personal favorite in that one is like Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is 3 seasons long, and you already knew how the story was going to end because it was portrayed right from the get-go that Aang was going to have to fight the Fire Lord. You got enough information about the Fire Lord from them being in the Fire Nation and how Iroh, Zuko, and Azula are. Like their bits and their backstories gives you everything else you need about that. Like Ozai is a generic villain, and sometimes that's all you need is a generic villain.
Sometimes, yes.
But it went with that whole thing. You knew where this story was going to end, so everything was a progression to get there, progressing through themselves as the characters, so that final fight would actually mean something. The story had an ending.
Ozai was the perfect villain because in the beginning he was built up to be this malevolent force. Like you never seen him directly. Like he was always cast in shadow, or he was always talked about in the terms of people talking about him.
Well, it was also brought up the fact that
him never interacted until the end.
Yeah, it was also brought up of just how ruthless he was, how, you know, he had no problem that even though firebenders can, you know, take fire directly to their body and not get burns, quite literally superheating his hand to burn a scar onto his son's face.
Yes.
Like, he's a villain and he's ruthless. Like, he doesn't care. Everything is about him getting to his goals. Period. He will use his own children, his own family. He does not care.
You know what it is? It's the same with every kind of entertainment. They always take the wrong lessons from success.
Yeah.
Because, for example, when's the last time we saw a Batman costume that was a costume and not a suit of armor?
Didn't they do closer to that into the new
Yes.
the new Batman movie?
No,
Nope,
that's
it
still
was
very
still-
much a suit of armor. I mean, since Tim Burton, we haven't had a Batman costume
Yeah.
in 1989. It's always been some kind of armor. Why? Why is our suspension of disbelief so weak that we can't imagine that Batman came up with a super fabric?
Yeah.
You know, a Kevlar version of Kevlar, for example.
Yeah.
Kevlar's Kevlar. That he's
A
using
cloth
instead of
Well, I mean, like,
these different kinds of plate armor.
yeah, for the storylines of that whole thing, like Batman Beyond, that one actually makes sense. But yes, for like,
Right.
typically it's the animated series where Batman's costume is still just a costume.
Yeah, like he gets shot all the fucking time.
Right, but you know, usually in the bullet hole, it's revealed that there's some sort of a armored apparatus underneath the costume. He doesn't look like he's wearing armor all the time.
Yeah.
The
Like a
closest
wire
we've
mesh.
gotten recently was Batfleck before he put on the Iron Man suit.
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
No, that's not Batfleck. That's
I know.
Bale, yeah.
That's Bale.
And yeah, Batman's right, and that carried over into the comics because now it's always some kind of goddamn plate armor. Where's
Yeah.
the Batman costume, for fuck's sake? You know, at least Spider-Man's still in a Spider-Man costume, even though
Nope.
it's been Tony
He-
Stark.
Again, I have an issue with. I keep bringing this up. I fucking can't stand Tom Holland Spider-Man. I can't stand him being this 20-something, barely out of high school kid. It pisses me off to no end. And God damn the planet, I want adult Spider-Man. I want the I'm doing the good because I have to do good.
It's one of the things to where I'll at least give them credit for the Tom Holland when you didn't have to deal with another fucking Uncle Ben death. And it was one of the things that I liked how they did for Batman v Superman. Not necessarily a great movie, but the whole thing was, you know, you had that whole story of like what happened to his parents taken out in the fucking opening credits.
Yes. We didn't need to see the origin story for the umpteenth billionth.
Right.
Yeah.
And I still maintain that the best Spider-Man movie we ever got was Captain America: Civil War.
That actually was a really good Spider-Man.
I have not seen that one. Like,
It wasn't a Civil War.
I'll still say this one. Granted, the second Amazing Spider-Man movie had its moments, but it was not that good, and it was mostly due to Jamie
No.
Foxx. I don't hate the dude as bad as Polly does, but I am not the biggest fan either.
No, I'm not.
But Andrew Garfield, of the three people who have played Spider-Man, did the best Spider-Man, not Peter Parker.
Right.
Tobey
Tobey
Maguire was
Maguire
best
did the best Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield did the best Spider-Man, and really Tom Holland, I think,
I like Tom Holland.
at least in Civil War, he does the best combination of the two. I think
Tom-
their version of Spider-Man is not sustainable
Yeah.
with Tom Holland.
Tom Holland's isn't bad, but he's definitely not my favorite.
No, Tom Holland is okay. It's not Tom Holland that I think is the problem. It's the stories they're
it's
trying to tell.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's trying
it's
to have
what they're
just
trying to
brown enough MJ. It's shit
Just
like
brown
that.
enough
It's turning Ned Leeds into a kid.
It's turning fucking Flash Thompson into Luther Polly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
You
turning
know.
it's turning Flash Thompson into Bollywood man.
Yeah.
And he did that, but
Okay. You know, and all right. So don't get me wrong. If they would create new characters in this Spider-Man thing, I wouldn't mind them as much. If they were to say that it's not Flash Thompson, it's another he did have a shit ton of bullies fall off fucking them.
Yeah.
And it could be that he has a shit ton of bullies, and one of them happens to be an Indian kid named Gunther Polly XYZ, and
Yeah.
that's the one we're following instead of traditional Flash Thompson. Instead of having Mary Jane as his lover, because he's had a shit ton of girlfriends.
Yeah. Well, it could just be it's like Flash
another
Thompson
girl-
finally is just like you had the beginning of it's like Flash Thompson goes and he's just like, man, Parker, making fun of you is just not any fun anymore.
Yeah.
You're boring. You're so pathetic that it's boring. I'm done with you. And you have a different bully move in.
Now think about it. Peter Parker gets bitten by the spider, becomes Spider-Man. He's got all these super spider powers, but he's also got that hypersensitive responsibility because of the Uncle Ben thing, right?
And he's also not a dumb
check it
kid.
out.
He's extremely smart.
Yes, he is. But now think about what you just said about Flash Thompson saying to Parker, it's boring bullying you.
Mm-hmm.
It would make sense because now Parker knows that he could end Flash Thompson in a snap.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But he just doesn't care.
But he won't. He won't do anything that could potentially hurt Flash Thompson.
Yeah.
Because of that sense of responsibility. And that is why it's no longer fun to bully Parker, because Flash Thompson is not getting the reaction he wants anymore. As a weakling, Parker would give him the reaction he wanted. But as someone who's actually dangerous, and Flash Thompson's not going to realize any of this.
Oh no.
He just knows that he's not getting what he wants. And that is some great character development for both Peter Parker and Flash Thompson, if only they knew how to write fucking characters.
No, instead they're going to have them talk about what they ate.
Yeah.
Oh God, yes. And again, just brown enough MJ. I can't stand. MJ is a redhead. You could again create a new character, create brand new characters.
Yeah.
She's Zoe.
Yeah.
Okay, in this universe, that because it clearly established that it's fucking multiverse, she Zoe. Okay, she's not MJ. MJ is the girl next door that goes to another school, but he talks that, hey, yeah, I have a friend named MJ that goes to XYZ high school.
Well, what was the other one? Liz?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, look. The way I see it, or the way I would play it out in a series of Spider-Man movies, Liz would be the high school sweetheart, and MJ would be the college sweetheart that he eventually marries. Because Liz died.
Well, and that whole thing, what it was...
MJ would still be a classmate during high school.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it went for the original in that for Mary Jane was. Mary Jane was the one that he knew in high school. Gwen Stacy was the one that he... is the one he has a relationship with in college, and she dies in college. Because he liked MJ, but Gwen Stacy is the one who actually liked him gave him attention, liked him for his mind, actually liked who Peter Parker was as a person, which is what makes her death even harder on him.
Right.
Wow, I just realized he kind of settled for MJ.
And then he also had a shot at what was it, Felicia Harding, who eventually becomes Black Cat.
And I keep saying
Felicia Harding was Black Cat already.
Yeah, but I say this over and over again. He should have, in the comics, he should have gotten with Felicia. That's the one he should. Felicia's the only one that tells him, do what you want to do. If you want to be the hero, be the hero. Don't be because you have some sense of responsibility, or you don't make an excuse to why you're the hero. You like being the hero. Be the hero because you want to be. If you want to be a villain, be a villain. Just make sure it's what you want to do, and that's been her entire motivation.
Well, that was her motivation, but so much of this is all sparked off of the "with great power comes great responsibility" from Uncle Ben.
Right.
Yes.
So he's always going to carry that weight.
Well, it's her way of trying to get him to move on from his trauma of Uncle Ben's death. Like the reason why he's Spider-Man is because he's carrying that shame. Like, I could have done something and I didn't. And in her own way, she's trying to at least get him to heal. Like, just if you're gonna do it, don't say you're doing it because that's what your uncle would have wanted you to do. Say it because you want to do it. You want to be the hero. You know,
like you have the power, you have the responsibility. You already know that, but you have to. If you're gonna go through the whole thing of wanting to be a hero, you have to commit to it.
Yeah,
you have to commit. You know, and she already knew who he was. So she doesn't have that same fear of, I can't protect myself. So that's not an issue. I'm just as strong as you.
You know, her issue was different. She didn't like the Peter Parker persona like she did Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, she kind of did.
So that's an interesting, or at least it was an interesting,
because they did
take on the secret identity.
Like Mary Jane did go through and develop towards, like, she actually did like Peter for who he was.
Right.
I still think one of the funnier storylines though is Wolverine says something to I can't remember if it's about Mary Jane or about Aunt May, but Peter throws him out of like a 60-story window.
He survives. He
survives all right in that whole thing, but like they come in there, see there's a hole in the window, and there's like, what happened? And he's just like, Logan said this. I put him through a window. And it's like, oh, okay.
It was a one shot basically. It was like a Marvel team up, Spider-Man and Wolverine. Back when Wolverine was in the proper colors, not this yellow and blue bullshit.
When it was cool?
Yeah. But it was sort of a spy thriller type story where they wind up in Europe. But Peter Parker had it with Wolverine for one reason or another. I think because he wanted to kill someone, and Spider-Man isn't about that. So Spider-Man was going to stop him. And Wolverine's on the ground, his back up against the tombstone, and Spider-Man's just punching him and punching him and punching him in the face. And, it's so hard that the tombstone is cracking behind Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
That's how hard he's hitting him. And, then in the Spider-Man thought bubble, it says, he just keeps smiling.
Because it doesn't fucking matter. He can't do shit.
Well, yeah, because that's what made Wolverine so much fun as a character, was in part you didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
His past was a complete mystery even to him.
Well, it was that whole thing, and it was also potential.
On top of that, Wolverine was a badass, and he knew he was a badass.
Yeah, and he was trying in a way to see if, in some cases with that whole thing, he knew what Parker's limits were, and he knew he wouldn't go beyond him. That's why he kept smiling.
Yeah.
He's like, I can take all this abuse. I'll come back from it. You won't go the final. It's like the final line.
Right.
She couldn't go to the final line because it wouldn't be a final line. Wolverine would survive whatever Parker could throw at him.
Unless he got him in the water to where he couldn't get out of it, and then he would actually drown. That's one of the few ways to legitimately kill him. It's like space, drowning, lava.
Wolverine's had his entire skeleton ripped out of his body and came back.
Wolverine and that one, the only reason that one happened was because of Jean Grey still holding him together.
Yeah.
There's also a storyline to where supposedly Wolverine came back from a single drop of blood.
Which would require a level of genetic memory that is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Depending on which storyline you're going with, he is technically if not the first one of the first mutants. Depending on the storyline you're going with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take you. And I'll take one of you. Oh, I want one of those too. But yes, again.
Go on.
No, I was about to say, I just want them to stop fucking shit up.
I just want characters to be fun again.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
And
it's like
let me clarify that a little bit, because I think people don't understand what I mean by fun or even entertaining. We watch a murder mystery, right?
Mhm.
Because it's fun.
Mhm.
We don't watch it necessarily to watch the cops win, because who likes cops anymore? But we like to watch the process, the investigation. We
Well,
like to watch that stuff.
in a lot of the cases as well, depending on what you're watching, like if you look at the classic murder mysteries, you don't the police aren't the ones solving the crime.
Right.
It's usually
They're
it's usually a private detective. They're the one
Right.
going through and solving the crime, which
Yeah, those
makes
are
it
the
more
best
interesting.
stories.
Yeah.
Some-
because they don't
But
have an
I was gonna say
infrastructure.
with the cartoon, or with not cartoons, but with the comic book ones and everything, like DC needs to stop trying to make things so fucking dark. And I've heard mixed reviews of the second Shazam movie. I still have to watch it somewhat. It's at some point. But over honestly, like the past 20 years, while I don't hate the Christopher Nolan Batman series, I still say that like Shazam is the best DC movie in a long fucking time.
It was a good movie.
Well,
I will argue that DC fucked up by giving away the name Captain Marvel.
yes. Oh, I can completely agree on that one. But what I mean
And-
by it's been their best movie in that whole thing in a long time. In the live action adaptations of it, is it's a teenager who gets superpowers, who acts like a teenager who gets superpowers to then finally, have that growth of character. But it was
Well, see,
also fun.
The problem is when Billy Batson says Shazam, he becomes a different person. That different person is Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
That was part of the interesting thing. But if you are going to go with the concept of Billy Batson growing big but still being Billy Batson, if you know what I mean,
Mhm.
I would really like to see a story probably set in the Batman Beyond comic, where whoever Batman Beyond is this week, because they decided to get rid of Terry McGinnis for some reason.
God damn it.
What the hell?
I
I
don't
mean,
know, man.
Batman
I
Beyond,
honestly
as far
don't
as I'm
know.
aware of, mostly started as the cartoon.
It did, but it made its way into the mainline DC universe.
Because I know then they were trying to say that it's like Terry McGillis is actually a clone of Bruce Wayne.
No,
It's
he
just
wasn't though.
like, thank
he
fucking
Not a
God.
clone, but a genetic with a genetic.
It was a genetic
he-
offspring.
No.
Yes.
God, I fucking hate it when they do dumb shit like that.
Well, the thing is, they did it. They actually did this one pretty well, because Amanda Waller tried to set everything up so that this genetic offspring of Bruce Wayne would become the Bruce Wayne type Batman, but he didn't.
Mm.
It was a failure, but they still came out ahead with the Terry McGinnis type Batman, which is fine.
Yeah.
But anyhow, somewhere in the Terry McGinnis days of Batman Beyond, if he runs into an old man named Bill who is on the edge of Alzheimer's, but he still has the ability to say the word Shazam, half the time he just doesn't know that he's Captain Marvel. I think that would be a really it would be a great way to turn the Captain Marvel Billy Batson thing on its head.
Yeah.
And tell a different kind of story, because if
No.
Billy Batson, with who's pre-Alzheimer's, remembers to say Shazam and becomes Captain Marvel, well, he's got his memory again.
Well, no, I like the concept of him becoming the new Guardian. The new Guardian that gives away the power. Him down in the fucking tunnels waiting for the next heir to take it.
So
Well, that would be
basically,
interesting too.
yeah, pretty much
But
like
I just think, see, again, I'm going with that verisimilitude thing. If you want to tell a relatable story that's going to have a lot of heart, that Alzheimer's element, that dementia that just comes with age, that's going to be a fascinating way to look at the superhero business, because Captain Marvel probably knows that when he says Shazam, he's going to start forgetting things again.
Mm-hmm.
And man, what a fucking
Or you could,
that's an interesting internal struggle for the hero.
yeah.
If he remembers that he has the struggle to begin with. What's that word? Shoelace. I don't know what.
Yes.
You know,
Shenanigans.
Shakabuku. Ah, that's not it. God damn it! What the fuck is that word? You had to say Tony. Pies.
What are we doing here again?
What?
Who are you people, and where's my horse?
But it's always been one of the things that bothers me is because obviously, other than a quaint few characters that don't age because they're immortal or something like that, because they don't age like humans,
Superman. He gets a
like,
little gray, you know.
You got to let them go into a mentor role.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you have to have an honest to God passing of the torch. That's what should have happened with Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
He was passing the whoopee cushion instead because Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams all fucking suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like that's what works in specific things in that, to where it's like when the hero gets to a certain point, they're obviously not, well, depending on what it is. If it's like a Japanese anime, the old guy's still ripped, but they still typically tend to take a mentor position.
Yeah.
They take a back seat.
Well, yeah, because it's not their story anymore.
Yeah. Well,
you reach an age where the politics don't matter to you like they did when you were young.
Well, that's why, okay, it's not the greatest series, but it's had a lot of really good stuff in it. I'm still, I need to go back to working my way through the 2012 CGI Ninja Turtles. Well, in the first season, they go to fight the Krang, and April gets pissed at Splinter, being like, why aren't you helping them? And that whole thing, he's like, it's not my job to lead them, or it's like to do these things. That's their job. He's like, my job is to teach them, give them guidance, and prepare them for the roles they have to do.
Yep.
Now, he still has the things where he comes out occasionally and whatnot, but in most of the other things, he's supposed to be the whole, the one they seek for wisdom.
Mentor.
He's the one who helps them overcome the situation by a specific story or specific life lesson that they had to learn.
Right. That's the role that Obi-Wan was in the first Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
He was in that mentor role. And honestly, if you watch that first Star Wars movie, no one gets this. No one understands what's going on there with Obi-Wan and Vader.
Mm-hmm.
And, because, okay, look, they say that the original Obi-Wan Vader saber duel is boring. It's not.
It really isn't.
Because what's happening there is that, Vader's more machine, and that's messed up his ability to manipulate the Force a bit.
It's not.
It's not also really a fight. It's a discussion.
Well, there's that too. But
honestly, if Obi-Wan,
you know what they've both learned? They've learned the wisdom of economy of movement. It's part of the aging process.
Obi-Wan wanted to, he could.
Watch that duel between Obi-Wan and Darth on Tatooine, where Obi-Wan kills Maul from Rebels. Because Obi-Wan starts off in his older fighting style, in his older stance,
it was,
and he switches to something more simple. Whereas Maul is still very angry, and he's still going to waste a lot of energy, but they're both old men now.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan was smart and decided to use a technique that required less energy.
Mm-hmm.
No flipping around, no fucking throwing shit with the Force.
What was the whole fact of simplicicism being properly focused, to where it's like there are fighting styles of that, to where it's like your movements are supposed to be exact. They're basically supposed to do what they're supposed to do without having excess.
Right. And I can tell you,
before we get in a little further, I have to go with what Green Badger said, because it's the common thing from the Evil Dead. Klaatu, Verata.
Mm.
Nickel.
Nectarine.
No, it wasn't enter. Klaatu. Verata. Yeah. Well, I might not have said every single syllable.
That's it. Great movie.
Yes.
But I can tell you because I've done the sword play.
Mhm.
And what I've learned that economy of movement thing. I learned that there will be people who will try to distract you with a lot of fancy moves and whatnot.
Mhm.
Don't let them. Wait until they strike and block it, and counter strike if you can.
Oh yeah.
And I will tell you that you can actually get into a state. I call it using the force because it's an understandable thing for most people.
Mhm.
But I'm not really using the force. What I am doing though is I'm putting myself into a state of being, a state of mind, where I'm not focusing on anything. But I am focusing on everything.
Yeah.
It is really hard to describe without a common frame of reference. But I will tell you this: through doing that, you can allow yourself to move and block every strike and land every hit if you practice.
Yeah.
And it is an incredible sensation. It's almost like you shut down. You have to.
Well, that's why
You really do divorce yourself emotionally from the outcome.
Oh, that's why where fencing is actually so nuts because it's so minimal movement of what they're actually doing with the rest of their body and how quickly that sword can go around to pierce and slash.
Right. And again, this is why I want to see that non-force using sword master train a Jedi in the art of the sword.
Yeah.
Because I have a bit of a backstory for that character, that sword master.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a risk with training a Jedi that they become cocky.
Yes.
And big-headed and they're driven by ego. And that's
And
that's a path to the dark side, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you take this force sensitive sword person and send them to the non-force sensitive sword person, so the non-force sensitive sword person can kick his ass.
Yeah.
And teach him a lesson in humility.
Well, that was actually one of the things that going back to the Ninja Turtles for a bit. The 2003, while it has such a great storyline, Shredder becomes basically obsolete as a villain for the most part after season 1.5, 2-ish, and everything. Throughout the 2012/13 one, while the Turtles can have landed some strikes, even as a team, they still cannot beat the Shredder on their own, who is, until a certain part, human. The only one who could legitimately go toe-to-toe with them was Splinter. Well, spoiler in that whole thing, until he does a mutagen thing to make himself Super Shredder, because they decided that one. At one point, and the Turtles never actually beat him, but he still ends up being defeated and being killed. But so does Splinter. It's one of the few ones to where Splinter legitimately dies. But I still like it. I mean, they've got enough references to other stuff. One of the guys gets double mutated to where he gets basically a secondary dog form, and they bring up Razar from the second live action movie. They use the name Toka for a planet-sized monster turtle.
Oh God!
That can shoot fire and everything. Well, it's basically one of the major monsters of the universe that is super difficult to actually fucking kill, and they don't defeat it or anything. It's actually being used as it's guarding something for that one. So it's in like 2-3 episodes in the whole thing. And the second one, it's like there for a little bit and then leaves. So like they don't have the whole Deus Ex Machina of being able to defeat it, really. But there's a lot of nods to the previous media of the Ninja Turtle series that I think is actually pretty neat.
See, I worry about nods.
Oh, they're not nods in like greatly doing that. Like quite literally with the Toka and Razar, it's Mikey thinks of the name instead of being like, okay, instead of being Dog Pound because you're now faster and you like have razor like more like knife like claws, I'm gonna call you Razar. So instead of Razor.
Oh God.
But
They're supposed to be kids. And then for the one for Toka, it's like flat out there. It's like you have other aliens that are like, no, of all the supreme being, or it's not supreme beings, but like great creatures, monsters of the universe, this is one of them, and its name happens to be Toka. So it's like it's a subtle nod from the creators, but not a like nod in the show.
Okay.
Like they do have one to where it's a nod to the first Wishmaster movie or the Wishmaster series, and it's a single episode about it, but it doesn't have anything of like, oh, this is a genie. This is a chaos deity, basically.
See, my concern arises because I've seen so many movies, established franchise properties, especially where the characters in the movie behave like they've seen all the prior movies.
Nope. They do not do that.
Okay. See, that always worries me because, like in Halloween 2018, Laurie refers to Michael as the Shape, but that was only ever a credits thing in the original, and it's one of those, okay, shut up. We don't need characters in these long existing franchises.
You don't need
all the movies,
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to delete all the movies from the canon except the original.
Yeah, you can't just go through and change things to be like, oh, well, we're going to retcon this and retcon that, but then try to have like some weird ass fourth wall break. Like certain movies can do that, but that has to be like established.
Right. I don't mind them using the mask from Halloween 3.
Yeah.
Because that makes perfect sense. Silver Shamrock mask. Why not?
Yeah.
It's Halloween. It makes sense for someone to be wearing a mask.
Yeah.
But if it's everyone in the movie wearing only 3 masks, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if
they hit Silver Samurai song.
If you see them pop up on different kids in different scenes, even on 3 kids in one scene, it's okay. But if it's every character who's not Michael Myers wearing one of those masks, it's stupid.
Yeah. Unless it's supposed to be something like
if there's a story element that justifies it, there's a raffle. We got a guy running around town. If he picks you, you're wearing one of our masks, you win $100.
Yeah.
If it's like a radio promotion or something like that, then it makes sense.
Well, God damn it. I'm trying to think movie. Remember the 5th of November. The Guy Fawkes. V for Vendetta.
Guy Fawkes.
Yeah. And like him saying out all the different Guy Fawkes masks, like that made sense in that scenario for something like that. But yeah, for like, you would still want several different masks for something like Halloween Season of Evil.
Right.
Season of the Witch.
Man, we always end up... It's funny, this isn't even supposed to be a movie thing necessarily, but we always devolve back into media just because, well, we've talked movies, games,
it's
TV shows.
ground.
Yeah, it is.
We're a bunch of movie nerds.
Well, it's also...
I'm not a movie nerd.
Well, it's also the whole thing of, like, I really don't have as many people around me, or at least online, that are as into guns that I can have those slight conversations about.
Oh,
we're a bunch of movie nerds and here.
I got to tell you, I'm
not here.
When it comes to the Second Amendment, I'm a big fan.
Oh, definite. But I mean, getting into like the different guns, models. I'm still learning more about ballistics. I'm not perfect with that one. Different things you can do to, get better at shooting.
Oh, you mean more of the mechanics of them?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. See that's not. I'm not a gunsmith.
Yeah. Well, that's not even necessarily being into like a gunsmith. It's just you don't always find that. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And the one friend that I have that I wouldn't mind doing that with, so far from everything I'm aware of, he's really not interested in doing streaming or anything. So I'm not going to pressure him, obviously, because that's just the
Right.
fucked up thing to do. Though, because he's also been a part of this whole little kertuffle with the one dude from that I had in the comments section, I'm still tempted to see if I can get both of them on a stream to hash out this fucking dude's logic.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Now, logic is in short supply these days.
Because I still got to make that fucking video. I did not feel like doing shit today. Other than going and visiting my folks. But it's been almost 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to call it here. So next week we'll be reviewing Con Air.
Put the bunny back in the box.
I'm going to continue with the Nicolas Cage movies for a while longer before we needed to do something else. This at least lets us, with Talking to the Void, lets us have something else. I got to go through and also figure out an outro fucking thing as well one of these days.
God damn it.
But,
Just put the bunny back in the box, Rod.
I know Mitch, myself, and Tier have been talking quite a bit, but like to thank everyone for joining. I know Angela's still fighting with what she's caught.
I was gonna say I haven't had a whole lot of room to break in, and it's been a good rest for my voice.
She had dysentery. She should have never dysentery.
I got to tell you, as a guy who's had voice problems, rest it up while you can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to, I mean, just take that rest opportunity, because I honestly freaked out a bit when it started lasting a long time.
Yeah.
Like, shit, what if I can't talk? What am I going to fucking do? I don't want to learn sign language. I know one sign, but that tends to get people upset.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
fluent in American Sign Language.
I know two.
I still wouldn't mind learning ASL. Otherwise, I typically know some gym sign language and aircraft maintenance sign language.
Oh.
And those are extremely different.
I know other driver on the road sign language.
Yeah. Well, one of the main ones for aircraft maintenance sign language would be you would walk up and you would have your hands almost as if you're praying, but you're pointing, and then you open them up. And what that signifies is aircraft forms. So where everything gets written down of like the problems and tire pressures and shit like that, because it's all into one big folder and everything. So it's like you'll basically walk up and like, see someone kind of give them a head nod and do that whole thing. So that way they can say, oh, they're, they'll point to where they are. Or they might be like, yeah, Super's got him or something. The other one is taking like your fist, or it's like taking your hands almost you're making a fist, but your thumbs are still out. And you put the bottoms of your hands together. And when you separate them, that's supposed to be pull chalks.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, that's typically what we would also do when we would go to leave, because typically I'll tap, like for some odd reason, a lot of us we would tap the bottoms of our fists together and then pull them. Why? It doesn't make any noise. It's just a little bit of flair or whatnot.
It's emphasis.
Yeah.
Or it's a southern accent.
I don't know. Aircraft maintainers are kind of a weird bunch. Or an odd. I don't know about weird, but they're odd.
I often wonder if people who use sign language speak in accents.
Yes.
Because I can see where that could be a thing.
Well, apparently,
Yes.
as I say, Angela said we're saying yes, they do.
There you go.
But yeah, we're gonna get out of here. It's been fun. Like I said, next week will be Con Air. Tier's got his show, and there's all the stuff that's going on, but it is Christmas in most of the country, or at least a little bit of it. I don't know if it's technically Christmas where Angela's at yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I got
Well,
another hour.
Okay, yeah, so she's got another hour, so it is close to Christmas, but Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy Honda Days, Merry Toyotathon.
Ho, ho, ho.
One more
Merry
sleep till
Christmas.
Christmas, y'all.
What?
One more sleep till Christmas.
Yep.
Have a good night
Yep.
and a great holiday.
Appreciate everyone coming.
Bah humbug.
Groovy.
Merry Christmas. Uncle
Now
Ebenezer.
I'm gonna try to see if I can just like, we'll see you next time.
Yay.
God
But-
damn it! God it!
And Shio shows up right at the end.
Damn.
Yep,
Shio,
and he
that's-
has
that's
that
deep
joke.
dive. I love it.
Yeah, he had that one on Monkeys. So it's a good joke. But appreciate everyone coming
Blessings
out.
of the Mad God King.
Have a good one, folks. And have a happy new year. Later.
Shake it naked.